Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. I've got a fresh coat of paint on the metal and a fresh load of 3D printed parts. I think it's time we wrapped up the build on the feet for the IKEA kitchen. After drilling the holes in the tops, I've given a coat of Krylon all-in-one fusion paint to all of the metal feet. And I've done a bunch of 3D printing, but you'll have to wait until a little bit later to see how all these parts come into play. The first thing that I need to do is take apart 8 of these IKEA feet so that I can scavenge the pipe in the middle to help support the new feet. Now, it shouldn't really be very hard at all because one half came out when I was trying to put it together. The other half-inch drive socket extension, tap it on the floor, then you just got a pipe. The next step should be almost as easy. One of the parts that I 3D printed is a small shim for the base. And I printed that so that it fits exactly on the pipe foot. So now this is exactly the right height to slide inside one of these, hopefully. So with the base on there, that is now a nice snug fit and well supported. Now, once I slide all those pipes in there, I can pop in the riv-nut in the top, and that is a solid, not going anywhere, IKEA foot. MYKEA foot. Now that the pipes are all installed, I'll be putting an M10 by 1.5 Riv-nut in the top of each one using my Riv-nut tool from Nextack. I'll put a link in the video description, and if you're interested in seeing more about how that works, go back a couple episodes where I started making these feet.
Okay, so I doubt you're going to go back and watch that episode, but a quick rundown is option A, we put a Riv-nut in the hole, and then we insert the Riv-nut tool. Next, we thread the tool down until it's fully seated with the handles all the way apart, and give the handles a gentle squeeze. And here we have the finished foot. Okay, I know IKEA is Swedish, not Finnish, but this is MYKEA, not IKEA, and since it's wrapped up, I'm gonna say this foot is finished. Now, option B is to thread the riv-nut onto the tool, making sure it's all the way open and the nut gets fully seated. Then insert the nut and the tool into the hole. This can be easier on bigger, more stationary parts. Next, we squeeze.
I'm kidding, they're not really that hard to do.
And all that's needed now is to repeat this process as many times as needed until I am able to completely finish all of these non-Swedish feet.
And there we go. That should be 8 finished feet ready to install. For those of you who may be concerned that the kitchen is sitting on 3D printed plastic parts, fear not. It's printed at what is known as 100% infill, which means it's solid plastic, and it's printed out of PETG, which is a much more thermally resistant plastic than the normal PLA plastic that most people use for 3D printing. So this means when this project is finally done and we're sitting on the beach in Baja and the air conditioning cuts out for a couple of hours, the feet shouldn't melt. And that said, need I remind you, the original IKEA feet were also plastic. Speaking of the original feet, I gotta remove what's left of them. With all the old feet removed, I'm going to start by installing the rear feet, and then I'm going to stand this up, and we're going to do something a little different. Probably should have done it like this from the start. Now with the changing of the design of these feet, I've had a bit of a think, and there's a better way than what I originally set out. See, I just kind of randomly placed these to a certain distance apart that looked good, not really thinking ahead of what my next step was going to be. But with a little bit more time to think, I've come up with a way of mounting my drawer slides to these feet using my 3D printer. I'm sure there's lots of different ways that you could figure out how to do this, but 3D printing is pretty straightforward to come up with exactly the part that I needed. So with a little bit of time in SketchUp, I've taken the angle of the side because these are not completely vertical. I've made up some little clips. And these little clips with a little slot in them simply slide onto the feet. And I've made opposites. So now the drawer slides can snap in with a screw, of course, and I'll have parallel drawer slides between the feet. Now, what I do need to do is change the position of this foot so that it lines up with the other end. Now, I do also need to make sure that these feet are exactly parallel with each other so that the drawer doesn't get pinched as it moves in or out.
In removing all these original IKEA screws, I need to keep them in a safe place.
So I've got the drawer slide clipped in at the back and I've got a single screw in it. So that's secured to this foot and this foot is secured to the cabinet. I've got my square sitting on top here to give me a line so that I know that this foot is square with the back or the front of the cabinet. I've used another plastic clip that I printed for the back temporarily on the front to hold this foot in place. And the reason I've done that is it's easier to use the rear clips than the front clips. And you might think that's a bit strange. The front clips are actually a two-piece clip. And that is so that I can slide this on at the back and I can swing it on at the front, put the screw in, and it clamps the two together. So I basically just split the back half and the front half so that comes up to it and then clamps it on from behind. So these are a little bit more fiddly to put together, but it gives me more versatility. And what that'll let me do is if I need to, I can undo the front, pop the track off, spin this around to adjust the height, and then put it back on without removing the back one. And just for good measure, I've put the second setup together and made sure that everything's parallel and things look like they're going to be in the right place. Now I can screw down this one, double check that I'm parallel, screw down this one, and continue on. Probably is also worth noting I'm not using the original IKEA screws. Those were horrible. I'm using proper screws now, ones that stick to your screw gun. And actually have teeth to bite in. All right, nice and square. We'll just do, might as well put 4 screws in at the same time. Oh, 3. I can't get that one underneath there with the track in place, so I'll have to pop the track off, which I have to do anyway because I'm going to kind of leapfrog these along as I go. We got 3 in there now. That's nice and solid. Drawer slide comes out. These are 18-inch drawer slides, and it may surprise you to know I did not buy these on Amazon. I've had these kicking around for a while. 18-inch drawer slides are pretty common, easy to come by though, and these ones do also have the little bracket that lets you remove the track completely so that I can take this piece out to attach to the drawer once I get the drawer made. They also have a little bit of a, not a lock, but a set at the back that holds them in place. Even with that, I will have a secondary lock that holds things in place. So now that this one's on and it's square, we're going to move over to the next set. Keep the square on there. And I'm going to do a measurement here and a measurement here and make sure everything's parallel. Actually, now that I've put a couple of these together, I'm realizing I don't really need the split bracket. I've got to take a screw out to split the bracket in half, and I also have to take the same screw out to separate the track from the bracket. guess I'll just have to go hit print again. That's the nice thing about having a 3D printer. I don't have to wait for an order to come in. I've got to spend about maybe 40 cents to print 6 more brackets.
Obviously, what you're watching here is vastly sped up. 3D printing is a great way to get quick prototype parts or low production numbers, but it's not quick, especially when printing PETG. This is about a 12-hour print to produce these 6 parts.
Unfortunately, to get at the other screws on this one, I have to completely disassemble this, take the foot back off so that I can get at the heads of the screws that are really underneath the feet. Not a big deal. These are now parallel. I've got my position set. I basically have to repeat this over and over again to the end of the cabinet, and then I can flip this back over. Now you may have noticed that my little basket of 3D printed parts had a couple more pieces in it. But that's gonna have to wait until next time. I hope you enjoyed that video of what's going on underneath the kitchen. If you did, give us a thumbs up, and if you've got any questions, throw them in the comments section down below, and I'll do what I can to answer them. As always, don't forget to check out the video description for any of the useful links that I've put there, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing. There's plenty more to come. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. I know, you want to see the finished product. Well, since you stuck around to the end of the video, there's drawer slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all installed, ready to flip the cabinet over, and maybe build some drawers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.